You are living in the most dangerous time in American history.
We won't take a single back step.
Former professional basketball player is now the Republican Party's choice.
Can you imagine Royce White, the U.S. Senate?
White won the endorsement on May 18th with 67% of the vote.
There's nothing that guarantees we win, but I guarantee you if we lose, we will die. Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio and powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody. You might as well buy them from us and help fund the movement, help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is another episode of HEBROES, and today we have the great Professor Penn back in the studio with us. Long-awaited, much-anticipated HEBROES episode, a lot of things to go over. Welcome back, Professor Penn.
So glad to be here with you, young man. It's a thrill. Every time we do HEBROES, it's a blessing. Yeah. Good day to you. Good day to everyone in the audience. We're far enough away from this awful event that we can start to recover, I hope, some good cheer. But this is our first time. We haven't really been in the studio together since
the assassination.
Since that assassination. And I want to tell the audience, traveling with Royce, you know, if you tell the truth and you speak it full-throated, you're taking a risk. And so I appreciate every moment I have with you. I'll tell a story. Can I tell us just a quick story?
Please.
You know, I met you in 2022. And
as anti-Semitic as I was.
As anti-Semitic as you were. Well, that's why I tracked you down, right?
Right.
But Matt Brodsky, the fact, we don't have to worry about Royce White. He's an anti-Semite. I said, an anti-Semite? I've been seeing this guy in War Room. I don't read a scintilla of anti-Semitism in him. I got to find this guy. So we talked, we got together by phone. I said, you know, I want to meet you. So I invited you over to a breakfast place, remember?
Yeah.
And you walked in. It was the middle of winter. It was cold. You came in, you had your hat on, you know, and took that hat off. There's that beautiful dome. And you sat down and we're talking. Me and my political mentor, Dave Kylo, was there, if you remember. And we were talking and you looked at me and you said, I'm willing to take a bullet for this. And it really bothered me. Remember, I immediately read a psalm like I was trying to bless you and get you out of that frame. Mm-hmm. Man, look how that turned out. Now I'm riding with you. And I'm ready to take a bullet because that's what it takes to defend our freedom. And if we're not willing to tell the truth, if we're not willing to organize, to do the work, to get out there, this audience, man, I know you like the entertainment. We're going to try to be funny. That's my new thing. I want to be a little bit lighter, you know, have a little fun, right?
Be funny like we are in real life.
Right.
In real life, we're funny.
We really, then we get on. I'm so serious on the Professor Penn podcast. No, we got to have, that's why I like both Alex and Steve. They're happy warriors.
Yes, they are.
We got to get into that because right now, every day, we're living on the edge.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
So all the audience, all the Royce White fans, followers, man, this guy, we're here in Minnesota, the belly of the beast. If you just could see it through my eyes, the stuff that we put up with and the harassment and the screaming and the spitting and all the things, just for saying things like, we believe in God. Yeah. We believe in God. That'll get you a good, you know, slap in the face in some of these.
Tongue lashing.
Right. Unbelievable. Anyhow, I'm recovering some of my goodwill, but I'm not out of the blast zone. And what I'm most concerned about is we're not done with this. The next shoe is getting ready to drop, in my opinion. Do you have a sense for that?
I just wanted to start off by saying, obviously, we're going to be tuned in this weekend for all of the procession ceremonies and things like that, an honoring of Charlie Kirk and sending him off the right way. His funeral is scheduled for Sunday morning, and who's who of ultra MAGA patriots is set to make
Is that in Arizona?
make it there to Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. Maybe it's Scottsdale, Glendale. I forget where exactly it's going to be, but in the Phoenix area, greater Phoenix area. Um, and so that's going to be all weekend long, and we'll obviously be on the Royce White Show, Real America's Voice, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. So we're preparing for that, and as always, our thoughts and prayers are still with Erica and Charlie's two children and the rest of his family, his friends, co-workers. Guess I'm a co-worker myself, but save no prayer for me. Charlie was an inspiration. So I just want to know what you think about what you've seen in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I always, they call me the boomer whisperer for a reason. My mom used to laugh because, we'd go to the bookstore. She was for a single mother, she had her issues, of course, but she did some wonderful things, and she's a very avid reader. And she was very, very into books. She had a house was full of books, and she did great to include me in that as a young kid. So she would go to Borders from time to time. I'd get off from the after school program. It's around 6:00. 5:30. Mom, blue collar esthetician, working the 9 to 5 hour, and we'd get off and we'd stop by Borders or something like that and just go in and
Which one? What part of town?
all over, because I lived all over the Twin Cities
Okay.
metro, right? So he dined, whether he dined
So
in
what'd you do,
Richfield,
go in there
St.
and-
Paul. They used to have one in the Midway, right?
Right,
the
that's what
university.
Right.
But yeah, I just bring that up because she used to joke that anytime she'd leave me in an aisle somewhere, I'd always find some old person and I'd be making friends with them. It's funny. I'd be talking to them.
Because you're an old soul.
Yeah, and I like the interaction with people who have seen more, who have seen it in a different time. Because I love history, and people that's not an insult by any means, but people who are your age and Steve's age and who are in that boomer generation are living history. That could be said as a joke, but it's not. It's actually profound and a very valuable piece of our society. A lot of the younger cohort, younger generation give older people shit because they're older and, out of touch. And for the ones who aren't out of touch, they are literally, worth more than gold to society. But so I always like to hear what the boomers think about some of the crazy shit we see today. Like, I'm only 34, but I don't think I've ever seen anything as disgusting and harrowing as we've seen in the days recently after this assassination. What are your thoughts? Just the social people, what the left, the Democrats, what people are saying, the kind of vulgarity and lack of decorum, lack of human decency, honor for a death, an assassination. Have you ever seen anything like that? Was it like that for Martin Luther King?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Oh,
tell me.
yes.
Tell
Oh,
me.
yes. Oh, yes. Yes. And I came into my adulthood not long after he was assassinated.
JFK,
JFK was
different.
It was a little different because that was a public execution of a president that was shocking, and I don't remember.
I think JFK is probably a better example because it was a public assassination. What was the response to JFK being murdered on either side of the aisle, whether you liked him or didn't like him, you agree with his politics or not? Was it anything like what we see today?
No. It was a different time of history, and we're talking about 5, 10. We're 18 years past the end of World War II. We were in a first turning. That was the end of the first turning, that assassination. So the social solidarity was much higher, and the grieving was, we could call it bipartisan. In fact, in those days, frankly, people didn't identify as Democrat and Republican. In fact, it was thought to be inappropriate to ask somebody, how did you vote? That was a personal decision in the privacy of the ballot box. Or in those days, you used to have a curtain that used to pull in behind you, and you were all by yourself. It was you and the ballot and the Lord. But no, the social solidarity, obviously there was a group of people that wanted him dead because he's dead. But the populace, the everyday people, we were stunned. The people were stunned. And then right afterward, just a few days later, Jack Ruby capping Lee Harvey Oswald. That was live on television. I was watching it with my mother and father. My mother fainted. She'd never seen anybody shot. I was just a little kid, so I just, that's what happened. But she fainted, just right to the floor. And those two events were so powerful, it traumatized the nation, and the nation had social solidarity at a level that your age group, I don't think, can even comprehend. Because we were right after World War II. Whatever this country did was righteous. Be it the propaganda or the truth. I mean, the truth, the propaganda, the narrative, they're always changing based on who's in power. But the prevailing zeitgeist of the time is that the United States of America, in its righteousness, in its righteous indignation, with its industrial power and the flower of its youth, had defeated evil by defeating these totalitarian states, Japan and Germany, Italy too. And we felt really together. And we were also benefiting at that time because these other industrial countries had been destroyed. They had no intact industrial base. So we were actually enjoying free trade.
The hog.
Oh, free trade. Oh, it's great when you're on the right side of it.
Right.
We had a massive trade surplus. Yeah. I mean, we were really, and the middle class at that time was built out, badass, and it was a one earner families with 2-car garages and eight dual carbs and 8 cylinders and just muscle cars, and life was good. And it wasn't good for everybody. I understand that, but there was a sense of goodness, and it was shattered, and people were stunned. And I don't remember anybody saying, in my world, saying it's good he died. That's good.
Wasn't it fenced at the and this is my read of history, just as a younger man who, you could say was properly miseducated by the public school system. Now you look back at it in retrospect as, mid-30s, it's 10, 11, 12, 13, you're in your average American history course, and what the tone of it was. It's fenced now today, and I'm wondering, was it fenced the same way when JFK was killed, that the most likely motivation behind JFK's assassination was his attempt to pass the Civil Rights Act? Was racial tension at the time fenced as the most likely reason that John F. Kennedy was assassinated?
Well, it was in the South ex post facto, if you studied it, that there was truly antagonism towards JFK. But at the time, no. At the time, it was fenced as a lone
gunman,
crazy man, crazy. And
was it fenced that this crazy lone gunman may have been motivated by the racial undertones of the popular culture?
Absolutely not.
No,
he was just a lone gun. I mean, this is.
Come on. One of the great 3 lies of the boomer generation. I love you, boomers, but the 3 lies you guys got to deal with still to this day.
Magic bullet theory.
Start from the top.
Okay.
Moon landings. You got to deal with the moon landings. You got to deal with this magic bullet theory of the JFK assassination. You got to deal with 9/11, with September 11th. I don't say it to be funny, but it is almost hilarious.
And it's interesting. I watch on X when we do this, and you've said this before, and people clip it and use it against you
to say I'm a conspiracy theorist, right?
Yeah, like it's just so far-fetched.
Isn't that crazy?
I look at those films.
Scary.
I know, but I look at those films, the moon landing, and I watched it live. When Neil Armstrong came down that ladder, I was glued to my I watched every space launch, and I was completely convinced. And so
of
proud.
Course you were. This is the first time you ever seen live television.
That's correct. We had a little black and white with rabbit ears in the basement.
The human mind wasn't even prepared. That's a Gutenberg revolution.
It was.
Television.
And we had so much trust in our government. There's just no way that I can express to the young people how gum-dipped we were. I mean, gum-dipped.
Explain what gum dip means.
It just means we were just vulnerable. We're gum dipped. We're stupid. We're just gum dipped. It's just a saying in the South when you take whatever they give you. You know, okay, great. The Vietnamese attacked our ships in the Gulf of Tonkin. Let's go to war. Go. I mean, we bought so much BS,
But it wasn't racially motivated at the time.
We didn't. I know from studying the history that there was deep antagonism to the Democrat Party in the South. Because remember now, the South, going back to the Civil War and back to the formation of the country, they were Democrats. And when we talk about who was the Confederacy, no, they shouldn't call it the Confederacy. They should call it the Democracy, because those boys were Democrats. And it was the Northern Christian Republicans that viewed slavery as an affront to Christianity. I mean, there was other issues involved, like, you know, the future of the country for industrialization versus agriculture, all kinds of issues. But the predominant one, and this is what's great about doing this, because we get to say what the narrative is. I get to construct a narrative no different than any PhD in any history department, and that they're going to listen, they're going to write in, oh, no, that's not true. Yeah, get your head out of your ass. Somebody taught you, somebody taught them, and somebody came up with a narrative that you're all gum-dipped with also. But, you know, there's scholarship involved. They're
the credentialed class.
They're credentialed. Yes, they're so good. But that South, and I think this audience knows it, but there might be some people that don't, those were Democrats. And that, you know, the whole post-war Reconstruction period was the whole carpetbaggers were Republicans coming down into the South to enforce the freedom that the slaves had been granted by Abraham Lincoln. And that went all the way up to the 50s, the 60s, and then the Democrats said, wait a second. We're going to have to make some change. And I think President Kennedy, and I have to say my father worked on a federal government civil rights commission at that time, so I was pretty close to it. I was in Washington with them.
Yeah.
I think there was some very noble sentiment in the party change, just like our Republican Party is changing. I mean, if you study, I don't mean to get too far afield, but if you study Asian philosophy and the yin-yang theory, one thing turns into its opposite. It's a constant series of change and transformation. And the Democrat Party, which was a racist Ku Klux Klan slavery party, actually turned into a party that was interested in human freedom for a second. And then when Lyndon Johnson took that chair,
I'd say that they turned into a party like the European counterparts that realized there was a better way to do slavery without all of the.
I was actually there, and I'm sure that was there, but I'm going to assure you that there
were some people who thought they were doing it for noble reasons.
It was noble.
But it wasn't. It certainly was, regardless of the motivation, regardless of the genuineness of their motivation, they certainly weren't radicalized like today's left.
Oh, yes, they were. Oh, that's not true.
They were.
I lived in the 60s, okay? I mean, I'm going to tell you what, University of Minnesota right here, 50,000 people tearing that place apart. The FBI, the CIA, trenches, billy clubs, beating the hell out of people. Actually, one could say, if they wanted to be really serious about it, is that the current left has not reached the radicalism of the left of the 1960s. And that was a communist left also.
It's a good point, because some of these far left groups were, even let's take the Black Panthers. And the Black Panthers it's a tricky one. And I've always said, again, the devil is in the details. The nuance matters, because one of the biggest indictments against Fox News in the modern day conservative movement, like we were talking about last week, is that, yes, the black communities all across this country have gone to hell under Democrat leadership, and there should have been much more pushback from the conservatives when they had the levers of power. So there was sort of a milquetoast kind of complacency or turn a blind eye when these policies were put in place that we now all criticize, which we do rightfully so. But it's always been my position that the credentialized class of the uniparty on the Republican side, the D.C. elite, the upper East Coast Ivy League elite conservatives, the David Frum types of the world, the Karl Roves, would much rather have a crisis in black communities to point to than ever see the rise of a black nationalist movement, a militarized black nationalist movement. This is why when Malcolm X and Fred Hampton and some of these people, and this goes back to the Hoover FBI, right, where they talked about the Black Messiah.
We're talking about the 60s now, aren't we?
Right, the Black Messiah, who could potentially, and for those who don't know, there's declassified documents that outline how J. Edgar Hoover once discussed in front of an FBI, meeting, that there was a term, the Black Messiah, one black leader that could rise up and galvanize the black community, galvanize black America, and become a real threat to national security. And that the Black Messiah had a few leading candidates: Martin Luther King, who at the time had already been assassinated; Malcolm X, who was estranged from the Nation of Islam by this time, and then he said that Elijah Muhammad, who was the head of the Nation of Islam, probably would be the most effective black Messiah because he's seen and regarded as a holy figure, and he had that sort of that calm sentiment of a holy man. It's even like if you've seen the documentary Wild Wild Country and about the guy Rajneesh, right? Some of these holy men, whether they're corrupt or not, their presentation is very calm and temperate, right? And so that makes for a good leader, a good elderly religious type political figure. But they said that Elijah Muhammad was too old, right? That he wasn't young enough to want it, number one. And then they said Fred Hampton is the new up and coming guy who was obviously very big in the Black Panther movement at a very young age. I mean, I'm talking in his 20s. He was giving speeches out there on the streets.
There was Eldridge Cleaver. There was Angela Davis.
Bunch of people.
There was a bunch of people.
But Fred Hampton was assassinated in his apartment, the help of the FBI and the Chicago police. And there's all of these racial things that happen that still leave great schism in the American mind and in the American spirit and politics of the rightful black-white coalition that needs to come together. And I just get the sense that they continue to pull on those strings anytime they're in a crisis. Anytime a person like Donald Trump rises up and puts the real issues right on Front Street, puts those chips right up on the bar, the racial narrative starts to unravel us again. And I'm seeing it right now in both directions.
No, I'm seeing it too.
Both directions, though, because there are more black people than ever that are stepping up and saying, wait a second, guys. I don't care what Charlie Kirk said about Martin Luther King, or I don't care what he said about DEI. Nothing justifies you celebrating a man being assassinated in cold blood. That's a step too far, even as the racial narrative goes. But you are seeing the other side where there are plenty of black people and whites on behalf of black people and whites who use the claim that Charlie Kirk was a racist as justification for celebrating the man's assassination. And again, there is a conservative movement in this country that would much rather be able to point to the crime in black communities than never see the rise of an organized and militarized black nationalist movement. And I think that sort of began right there in the 60s and 70s. Why you say it's more radical. The Black Panthers were radical. I mean, these guys were walking around the streets with shotguns, and not only that, they were shooting it out with the police. They had a mentality that said, okay, the BLM is like a cosplay of the
compared to what those folks
of the Black Panthers movement.
I'm going to tell you,
right?
I was there, and I want to say this, and I don't know that I've ever shared this with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
My father, Misha Penn, who, really was truly a great man, and I didn't really recognize how great he was when he was alive with me. He passed in, when was COVID? 2020?
2020.
2019. He died in December 2019, just in time to skip that. But he was on the front edge of this thing here as an educator here at the University of Minnesota. First of all, he was the leader of the anti-war movement. And that anti-war movement here in Minnesota was intense. I'm talking about violence, real violence. now I drive by McAllister College, Code Red was out during the Iraq War. There'd be, 40, 50 people out there. We're talking about thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of students in the street and, openly willing to confront the police. And people got killed regular. Regular. My father was beaten by the FBI, pepper gassed in his office. This was not a kidding around deal.
Mm-hmm.
But then he also had a thing going with the civil rights issue. And what he was interested in doing was getting a Black Studies department started at the University of Minnesota. They occupied the administration, the administration center, I think it was called Morrill Hall. They occupied it. They wouldn't let go until the university agreed to have a Black Studies department. This was going on all over the country, and the Black people that were involved in this were radical. And I grew up with them. I was hanging around with them. And these people just wanted education. That's how far we've come.
Right.
They just wanted a chance to get the community educated.
But okay, let's break it down in detail, because I think the media and the propaganda is coming so fast and furious now. We're going to miss the plot. We're going to lose the plot here. And that's why I think it's important to go back to the history, because in the 1960s, would you agree that the Democrat Party, the prevailing Democrat Party, let's say a layer above your average academic university community activist, had a much deeper, more sinister plot for the racial narrative than people realized that were on the front line of it, right? So in the 60s, there were things like segregation, but also there were government policy, actual government policy and legislation that was not kind to Black people, let's just say Black people for sure, but minorities. Now it would be considered minorities. But there was legislation, real laws that were on the books that were not friendly and kind, on top of a war movement that we now all agree was pretty righteous. We look at the Vietnam War, despite the respect that we have for our Vietnam vets, because they were pulled into something they didn't really have control of.
They were draftees,
They were draftees, right? But we look back at the Vietnam War now and go, shouldn't have been there. That was a mistake. At the time, there was a right-wing movement that said if you were against the Vietnam War, then you were anti-American, right? So these people had more legitimate reason. Do you think by comparison, then, that today's left is much more radical fundamentally because they don't have the same set of fundamental disagreements rooted in something real?
I think.
Because, let's be clear here. The radical left now, these shooters today, if you decided, okay, I'm going to take a shot at a Republican politician in the 60s because they are pro-war and I'm anti-war, that's different than saying Charlie Kirk is a danger to transgenders. He's spewing hate about Blacks and transgenders, and I'm going to assassinate him because he's an existential threat to transgenders. That's two totally different things.
That's correct.
Right.
It's two completely different.
One's reality and one is not reality, because there was a neocon war machine even in the 60s. We know from Eisenhower that it goes back to the early 1900s in some sense. So there was a lot of legitimacy to even though it was co-opted, right? We know that the 1960 Civil Rights Act, which Charlie Kirk in his death has taken a lot of heat for from.
And the anti-war movement was co-opted.
But there, the civil rights, and I told you, and I keep saying, I'm way further to the right than Charlie was. He's the nice guy in the MAGA movement. I think the Civil Rights Act was a scam too, because I account for the fact that people use crisis for nefarious purposes. I'm accepting of the fact that the people who run our country, who run politics, who run our intellectual and academic institutions have the luxury to think far ahead of and for certain institutions, so certain social circumstances and engineering than your average person who goes to work every day. That's just logic.
We have this thing we play all the time on the podcast, which is that Hudson Institute piece with Herman Kahn. From when he says there's certain people throwing sand in the gears like the Black Panthers.
That's right.
And we got to find a way to get this.
But now we're at a see, and this is what makes it so tough, I think, because you have a conservative movement now, a MAGA movement now, who's just hanging on for dear life, and we're one or two clicks away from
Fragmentation.
The ash bin of history, right? And we're faced with a choice. We're often faced with a choice presented to us by conservative media, conservative thought leaders, right? Conservative political pundits and, the salesmen, let's say, of Black Panthers or Herman Kahn. You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what
We
you're
are
saying.
often presented with the choice by our prevailing political establishment. Herman Kahn or the Black Panthers. And I use your example where Herman Kahn says these Black Panthers are throwing sand in the gears. Now, when you really take a look at Herman Kahn, although he was considered to be more apolitical, I guess, because when you're a scientist and engineer and whatever, you're seen as separate from the political world. Now today, we know that's not true. When you look at Herman Kahn, was he so opposed to the Black Panthers' communism, or was he opposed to their nationalism?
Or was he opposed to them just throwing sand in the gears, and it was a convenient excuse?
Or it was an inconvenience for the scientific
This is the great danger.
evolution,
This
the
is
scientific evolution.
Yes, it's an excuse.
Which one was it? Which one do you think? Do you think, if you had to attribute a percentage, was Herman Kahn, who we now recognize as one of the post-World War II
futurists that have brought,
transhuman futurist,
Yeah.
techno feudalist kind of, Bill Gates type figures of his era, only probably much more sinister and
very impactful.
very much more impactful for sure. Was Herman Kahn more opposed to the Black Panthers because they were Black, because they had communist element, because they were nationalists and more Second Amendment gun-toting citizens, right? Low-class people, or because they were an impediment to the scientific revolution, to the scientific
No, they were a
advancement?
help to the scientific revolution.
Go ahead.
This is the great day. When you say we're on the edge of going into the ash bin of history, this division, it doesn't matter which side of the mountain you work. If everybody ends up screaming for the government to rescue us from each other, we're going to have martial law and the lockdown. I think it was
Technocracy.
It was just a convenient excuse. But they used the SDS, the Citizens for Democratic Society, which was Jerry Rubin's deal. Just a bearded, young Jewish radical who was preaching for a communist revolution in the country. That was equally a threat, throwing sand in the gears.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why did Herman Kahn single out the Black Panthers on that clip?
Politically convenient.
Yeah, because there was a greater fear of a bunch of black men dressed up.
So is this what Alex Jones sort of describes as the Hegelian dialectics?
Yes.
Where in that moment, although Herman Kahn was opposed to everything was opposed to the fundamentals that the Black Panthers stood for, which we now today would recognize as more of a nationalist mentality, a more rugged individualist. We are our own self-governing citizens. Even though he was opposed to that, he would draft on whatever was convenient for the time politically and culturally to forward his own agenda.
Which was?
Even if it was contradictory to his own position.
His position was technocracy.
Right.
And you know what he actually lays out. I've told you, I watched it on YouTube. It's still up there. I think they left it up there just to torture me personally. Just like a personal devil. Because it's right there. Anybody can go to YouTube right now after the show, put in Herman Kahn, Hudson Institute, and realize what we're living through was laid out in the 60s. And they talk about computer generated surveillance and the ability to, they actually talk about putting whole cities to sleep.
Mind control.
It's unbelievable. It's terrifying. So I don't think it was necessarily SDS. SDS could have worked. He could have put in SDS instead of Black Panthers. It would have worked just as well.
But my question is, could he have put in what then was considered to be a right-wing political movement and served the same purpose that the Black Panthers or SDS did?
Well, what was that? The John Birch Society?
The John Birch Society.
Well, they got plenty of pushback, but they were, of course, and let's just be frank about it.
Okay.
Are great. And I saw this on X, and so did you. The cities didn't burn down after Charlie Kirk was so horribly killed.
Right.
Because if you're a constitutional Republican conservative, you believe in the rule of law, even if the rule of law is corrupt.
And that was the John Birch Society.
And they were.
And that's been the conservative movement and the right wing movement. That's the distinction between the right wing and the left wing, is that at their height of unrest and activism, at the height of activism and unrest, the left believes in anarchy, and at the height of activism and unrest on the right,
we want the Constitution to prevail.
They believe in political victory,
right?
Political win,
a political outcome through a political process that is constitutionally steeped. And we're sitting here and we're going,
there is a burn it all down on the right brewing now too.
Well, that's new.
Is that new?
That's new.
Okay.
I mean,
from your vantage.
Well, there was always these.
Unless you go all the way back to the Revolutionary War.
There's a spot.
And then,
but you could also say
there was no real left-right.
We've had a group, like out in Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, the Posse Comitatus. I mean, there's always, but in terms of numbers and impact,
operationalized, wide scale.
Right.
There's never been a right-wing movement that's apex is anarchy.
Well, if your apex is anarchy, and you're burning it down, where are you headed if you're basing your faith in Christ? Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal.
Could you make the argument, though, that there does seem to be what you could describe, and Dr. Taylor Marshall lays this out as a former Protestant that's now Catholic, and if we brought A.J. Barker, Tim Gordon, any of these young trad Catholics in, they would describe an accelerationism throughout the Christian, the Protestant, and evangelical community that looks very similar to. It looks similar in its proposition, not similar in its political activism. Where, for example, the acceleration theory on the left politically is burn it all down. And something good must come from that. From the ashes will rise some phoenix of good, which we all know there's a dark phoenix, right? I mean, not all phoenixes
Anything's
are good.
better than.
That's their thought process. Anything is better than what we have now. That's already a schizophrenic idea, in my opinion. Honestly, I don't believe in that at all, because you have to be an atheist and not believe.
I was just going to say the same thing.
You have to not believe that there's good and evil, and that the state and government are the only manifestation of injustice, to think that you could burn down systems that have shown and proven to work to some degree, and anything that comes from it is going to be better. You don't really understand and wrestle or contend with how the demonic and spiritual forces work, or you're in alignment with them and you're just saying you want to burn it all down, and what you really want is something much worse. The evangelical and Christian similar accelerationism is with.
Go ahead. No, you go first. Put that card down. Here we go.
Well, I mean, it's just a matter of fact that you hear a lot of people talk about Revelation in a way that almost suggests that they'd like it, if given the chance, with their personal life, they'd like to move it along. Jesus is coming. The end is near. We must destroy the temple there in Jerusalem. And
talking about Christian Zionism.
Okay.
I mean, that's people don't understand, don't know, have no understanding of the fact that Zionism is a Christian concept and predates Jewish Zionism by 50 years, and is a creation of preachers in, where? That would be the Empire, Great Britain, and was used by the Empire to justify a geopolitical strategy in the Middle East, which was about colonialism and exploitation.
Oil,
Suez Canal.
Oil and trade.
Getting your ill-gotten gains from China back to England as quick as you can and sending the boats back. We're going to cut 14 days off that sailing. There's so much robbing to do. We got to cut down on the time.
Right.
It's really just, but this whole revelation, Christian Zionism, there's Jewish revelation kind of eschatology. This whole thing is okay. That's why I enjoy talking to you, because it's a little bit like burn it all down. It is. And I never thought about it quite that way.
Oh, it's not like burn it all down. It's more like let it all burn if it's going to happen.
No, but I see it through.
I don't really feel because there's not that impetus towards anarchy in that movement, right? So they're more of that movement is more of a passive spectator in the eventuality.
They're not passive. They just want to move it ahead quickly.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they're not politically active. That's the difference between them. They're not.
Maybe not now.
Or let's say they're not politically active at the level where the left is politically active at a grassroots level. That Christian Zionist movement is more active on a geopolitical level, and they are more interested in bigger scale effect in their political activism.
The biggest.
Nuclear war.
Right. We're going to bring about. But going back into the 1850s, where this started, the idea that we're going to hasten the end times by returning the Jews to Israel?
No, explain it, because I don't think people are even familiar with it. Honestly, I don't think I think your average Christian, I say it just like this. You and I, we grew up in St. Paul. It's a heavy Democrat community of a variety, very diverse ethnically, Democrat, Marxist, communist sort of academic stronghold, right?
Used to be union, used to be traditional Democrat.
Blue collar community.
Over time, it radicalized.
You don't even realize the nudges you get toward the narrative. I said the other day on the podcast, it's a movie here, it's a punchline there, it's a sitcom there, it's a
late night television
music,
show,
late night television show,
a song,
an ad, a commercial,
a girlfriend.
There you go. That's usually the one. Right?
Well, it could be.
Most times.
It could be.
It could be that. It could be that high school teacher, usually the prettiest one.
Oh, the high school teacher.
Oh, the prettiest one. Oh, you had a crush on her, but she was a commie to the max. And the commie ones, let's just be honest, okay? The ones that are a little crazy are usually the funnest, right? I mean, for men who still struggle with lust.
At your age, at my age, it was Mr. Johnson.
You know what I mean? So, the cultural subversion of the feminist movement is as profound as we've ever seen. In light of the Charlie Kirk thing, I don't think there's a more disturbing manifestation of the demonic than to see some of these young women, college-age women, that have completely lost all remnant of civility, really, humanity in their celebration of a man's assassination. Even the call for the death of his wife and children now in the aftermath. I mean, it's gotten that fucking crazy.
I hadn't heard that. Taking the civilians too?
Oh,
whoa,
yeah.
That's just.
Oh, you haven't seen that?
No. So what you're telling me, they want her the wife and the kids still.
Absolutely. No, it's that fucking crazy, man. No,
and that's not very mafia. Always leave the families
alone. It is not
alone.
very mafia. No, it's very, very
What is
dark.
that?
Demonic infestation is what it is.
So you're not looking for a rational cultural mechanism of changing our culture from what it was to what it is. You're just saying it's demonic, in your opinion.
It's demonic infestation. There's 3 levels to demonic influence, right? You got demonic infestation, you got demonic oppression, and then you got full-on demonic possession. And demonic possession is when a demon takes over your body completely. And people often mistake demonic possession for
it's hilarious.
Demonic infestation.
It's hilarious we're talking about this because I'm having a lot of guests on my podcast right now. But when I get back to a solo podcast, I actually downloaded and I'm going to read the exorcism prayers.
Oh, man.
I'm for real now.
Because we need to put them over our entire nation.
Yes, that's why.
But see, where do the exorcism prayers come from?
I just looked them up.
No, I mean, which?
These were the ones written by Pope Leo.
Which faction of Christianity?
Catholic.
Right. See, the
Catholics.
The Catholics are primarily the ones that deal with
the truth,
the demonic.
Yeah.
Right. And not to say that there weren't demons inside the church. And I love when Dr. Taylor Marshall says, never abandon Jesus for Judas, or never abandon Jesus because of Judas. He basically was saying that despite the corruption inside the Catholic Church, don't abandon God in the church. That, you can make an argument that that was the mistake, the theological mistake of the Protestant movement in the beginning, is that they looked at the church, and instead of having a political activism in their approach, and seeing the church as theirs, the church is ours. The church isn't the Roman empires. The church isn't the monarchies. The church belongs to the people, and we are responsible to have the church represent the people. Now, at the time, the power was so stratified, they probably felt that the only way to have
Revolution
was revolution. And listen, I love when Bannon says it. He says, there's a revolution coming. The question is who's gonna win. So all revolutions aren't made equal. It's like the heresy of democracy. All democracies and all majorities aren't made equal and righteous. All revolutions aren't made equal and righteous. That's what the far left doesn't get. They think that any revolution, by definition, is an
improvement.
Yes, is a net positive. And I say that, I say that with hesitation, because I don't think all of them think that. I think some of them know that the revolution is going to be dark and twisted and sinister, and that's what they want. I think they're able to co-opt a bunch of people who don't have good historical, political, sociological, spiritual first principles into that movement, and they really do believe that the system is so bad, anything other than this would be a net positive.
But on the other hand, you got to look at it. It's like talking to a friend of mine. Oh, there's no war, there's no bombs, there's no planes bombing St. Paul, Minneapolis. No. There's all kinds of wars. We're in a new kind of hybrid warfare that doesn't necessarily involve that. We've been in a revolution really for hundreds of years.
No doubt.
And maybe we didn't always have wars. Sometimes wars broke out. I mean, what is Nazism other than a symptom of Darwinism?
Right.
What is Darwinism? A revolution against faith.
The church.
So and all I say is, okay, for all the leftists that could be listening because they want to hate you, look at the outcomes. I mean, we're in the outcome of this. So you think you're going to double it down and fire it up further and it's going to get better? No, you guys are going to be the victims of it.
Yeah.
We're already victimized. And I don't like to think about it like victim. I think it's an experiment. We took an experiment. We're just like your kids. You remember when your kids were crawling around, everything went in their mouth. Everything was an experiment.
Some shit you had to slap out of their mouth.
That's exactly correct. Right. That's exactly correct.
You had to slap that little baby on the butt and on the mouth and get that big hard piece of plastic action figure out of your mouth.
So you don't die from
it.
and die. Okay, because that's where we are right now.
Amen.
And so now people are starting to stand up.
Yeah.
I had Amanda Hughes on this morning. She's going to show up next Tuesday. She said there's a spiritual revolution going on.
Yeah.
Now, I can't sense that because I've had my spiritual revolution decades ago. So I'm concerned about the log in my own eye. Is there, along with all of this demonic crap?
It is. Well, a natural response, right? The natural response to a proliferation of demonic energy, people giving over to evil, is going to be a desire for Christ, a desire for faith, a desire for.
Is that happening? For real?
It is profound. It's so profound. It actually gives me goosebumps because as the stakes get higher, the fight is inevitable.
For real, this is happening.
No, it's for real.
Okay, so
there is a rise.
There's a counter movement.
There is a rise of Christian rap. There is a rise of evangelical and Protestant and even Catholic ministry and evangelism, and you see Jesus. Look at the state fair. Look at the state fair. The Jesus is King shirt. I can't. You know what? Really, this is how I know.
Okay,
I'll give you the prime example. Just happened to me yesterday. I go to pick my son up from high school. He's 9th grade, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, he was raised to believe in God and Jesus, and he's a Christian kid. But he had 2 of his friends with him, 2 other basketball players. I'm taking them over to lift weights. They all lift weights right after school. And I ask them every day, how was school? You know, all three of them, how was school today? And then I ask them, what'd you learn? And little Royce goes to talk about the Big Bang. He says, we learned about the Big Bang. And before he could even finish, one of his teammates from the back said, I don't believe in that. And I'm like, okay, now these are three black kids, to mind you. These are
Okay.
three black boys, okay, young men. So little Royce goes on to, continue. Little Royce has always been a huge science freak since he was a little kid. He loved dinosaurs. He's the type of kid that was watching YouTube videos about prehistoric dinosaur bones and shit like that. He could tell you he knew the difference between, Mosasaurus and Tyrannosaurus and shit like that when he was like 4. He loved outdoors, loved science, loved nature. That was kind of his thing. So he gets done talking about what he learned. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you think about the Big Bang? He goes, I don't believe in it. I go, why? He goes, God created the universe. And I went around to each of them, and all three of them unanimously said with conviction that the Big Bang Theory is bullshit. God created the universe. So what do you think about evolution? Do you think that we evolved from monkeys? No. There's some racial undertone to that, even with the black community, right? We're already kind of adverse. We didn't come from fucking monkeys. Don't say, don't say we're monkeys. But yeah, so even that kind of, because I look at it and I go, where did these three young men living in this secular, humanist, very anti-religious, anti-Christian public school system come across this profound sense of human identity rooted in Christ and God? And I don't even have an answer, because I know what our black communities are like. I know what our black churches are like. I know what the public schools are like. I know what the sports community is like. And yet the same three young men showed up at the state fair. They came one day to hang out with me at the state fair. And I asked them what T-shirt they wanted. We were giving out a bunch of them. Which T-shirt you guys want? And all three unanimously said, we want the Jesus is King shirt. And it was like that for a bunch of kids that came to the state fair. So in the shadow of darkness, there is light. And it seems that response of light is much bigger than anybody could have predicted, anybody could have imagined. And I think that's why the demonic forces are kind of, unclothing the way that they are, undressing themselves the way that they are. I mean, they're really letting it all hang out now. It's like nothing I've ever seen, And so maybe
It's actually hard for someone my age to look at.
That's what I was asking.
I mean,
like, are you shook by it? Where you're
I am shook by it. I remember when I was young.
Rest and piss. I mean, even your worst enemy, even your adversaries, even your military adversaries.
Right.
You gave some respect and honor to in death.
I was just going to say, even the suicide of Hitler, for me as a young Jewish-born man, when I read about that in the 60s, it was a solemn thing. Man killed himself. Wow. I mean, I know he should kill himself, did he kill himself, all that. I mean, but the first time I thought it was like, he killed himself. I mean, what does that mean? It wasn't like, oh, yeah, that's great. And I remember seeing pictures of Mussolini hanging upside down from a lamppost. I didn't celebrate that. I mean, those were hard images, hard facts to deal with, because I think we were talking one time, you said that from a Catholic frame, death is an unnatural condition.
Yeah, that's a Christian, it should be, depending on your theology. But man is fallen. We fell from our divine.
From dust you came, and from
creation.
dust you will return.
It was never intended for man to experience death. We were supposed to be eternal beings. That was something that was taken away from us from the original sin in the garden. So, yeah, death is very unnatural, and we all get that sense.
So who are these people that are worshiping the unnatural? That's the part that, who are these people not worshiping, but reveling in the unnatural? Even you've been
Satanists.
well, you've been in fights.
They're demonic.
I don't know, but you've been in fights. I've been in fights. I hurt people.
Yeah.
And I feel bad about it still. Fights from 40 years ago. I can remember the feeling of my body, interfacing with somebody and they drop like a sack of rocks. I still feel bad about it. I felt bad about it at the time. It's like, wow, that worked. Ooh, what did I just do? So, I come from a culture of life, and I was raised by people who believed in life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say life, people know what I'm saying. There's all these Jewish people at the forefront of the abortion movement, and not my people. I had no abortion where I came from. I'm not talking about my mother, I'm talking about my grandparents. And hey, there was no sex before marriage. These people were old timers, okay? So part of it is we've just stripped away so much of the traditional reverence that if you don't believe in God, and you really open the door to whatever comes, that's called breaking the seals. So for all of us boomers that were participating in breaking all these seals, hey, are you going to take any responsibility for this now and to have the courage to go out in the streets and try to heal this? Because, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I know who I am. I know where I came from. I know what happened. And it was just, I comfort myself by saying it was just an experiment. And I see the results, and I see it on X. I see these people. Man, I don't have a lot of insight into it where I can say I understand where you're coming from.
It's the craziest shit I've ever seen.
There's no reveling in death.
I've never seen anything like it, honestly. And
are you disturbed by it?
Deeply. I'm deeply disturbed by it. It seriously.
Do you remember
I'm more contemptuous of people than I've been ever before in my life.
Do you remember when I called you when Charlie Kirk was killed? I called you right after. Do you remember what you said to me? You don't remember, do you?
Go ahead.
Jesus, 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 Jesus. That's all you could say was Jesus for a minute. You didn't have another word come out of your mouth. I said, I'll talk to you later. Really, that is the response that I would expect. And we've lost that fundamental building block of our culture. It's been kicked out by 100 years of progressive education. And when you unmoor people from a culture of life, you get a reverence for death.
Yeah.
And now let's take it to the next level. If you really believed that the liberation of man from feudalism was kind of like they slipped out of the trap because of the so-called Enlightenment, which I kind of think is branding, but really science and technology opened up the opportunity for people, and then the great creation of America in 1776, which is based on rights that emanate from a creator, not from a king, and that every citizen is a sovereign, and that we can pursue our own life and our liberty and our happiness. If you believed, whoever you were, that was an anomaly to be defeated, then you would set about a long-term path and plan to destroy the underlying fundamental building blocks of that culture. And the most important building block in that culture is God.
Right.
And that's now
I said that earlier today on X, because guy goes, he says on there, he goes, well, I just see all these Christians that think if they put Christian by their name, or if they claim to be a Christian, and anything they do is good because Christians are doing it. I go, this is a man who was educated or propagandized by communists and atheists and Satanists. So that's the wrong read of Christianity completely. Christians don't believe that we can do no wrong. It's the opposite. Christianity is a signal for those who claim Christianity, is a signal that we acknowledge we do wrong. We will inevitably do wrong, that we are sinners. We are fallen, and that we are committed to a moral standard, a spiritual standard, a supernatural standard by which we'll be judged. And if we don't live up to that, there is wrath and there is punishment, hell to pay. And so it's not that we can do no wrong. It's that to start from a place where you acknowledge that there is such a thing as wrong is way different than saying there is no such thing as wrong. Those are the two. At bottom, that's the fundamental difference between the Christian and the non-believer, or the person who believes in God
Cultural
and
relativism.
that doesn't believe in God. The Christian has made a sort of self-identity commitment that there is such a thing as wrong. We may do wrong, we may not. We probably will. We sin. That's why we need forgiveness. So, but there is wrong. The other side has complete, individual sort of personal judgment at any given time about what's right and wrong. That's the only way you could bring yourself to shoot a man, assassinate a man in cold blood, and then as an onlooker, an audience, celebrate it. I'm more disturbed by the celebration than I am the assassination. Honestly, I'm more disturbed by the response to Charlie Kirk's assassination than I am the assassination, because you can, if you look at this thing in a sort of cultural revolutionary way, you can track where an individual will ratchet themselves up to think they're actually carrying out some necessary mission in this battle between the left and the right for our country. Because you hear patriots talk about it all the time. You hear patriots say, hey, there may be a war. When a guy breaks into your house, I tell people, guy breaks into your house and it's between you and your family, you kill him. You defend yourself. And people will look at that and go, well, that's not Christian. That's not a very nice thing to say. Well,
it's not Christian?
Well, there is a sort of turn the other cheek. Here, let's say like this.
Jesus moved through the crowd like a whirlwind.
I know, but the contemporary use of Christian culture has taken the turn the other cheek approach. That's the thinking, is that there's not really a transgression that could be waged against you that justifies any behavior that Christ wouldn't recommend. And so they say, love thy neighbor like you love yourself, right? Am I my brother's keeper? Pray for our trespassers, right? So, and that has become the contemporary form of Christianity. So, yeah, and the left uses that against us.
Yes, it does.
They say, well, that's why you see it is that anytime I use profanity, they go, oh, and you're a Christian?
You're right.
You don't get to talk to me. You don't get to talk to me about Christianity. You don't believe in Christ, number one. Not only that, you mock Christ. But people look at Christ's life and they say, well, Christ was mocked and he still prayed for their forgiveness in the end. So there's a lot baked into the Christian narrative that has a huge impact on our country and our culture, worldwide today. But my point is that, yeah, it is profound. This Christian revival it's something to behold. But I worry. I still worry because I ask myself. I mean, I'm not a prophet. I don't claim to be a religious prophet. I'll ask the spiritual questions and wrestle with them. But what is the proper view of the use of violence and force as a Christian? And I don't just mean that for myself personally, because I know where I'm at with it personally, but I mean as a prescription for the Christian community, come from, let's say, the Pope or any of these other Christian religious leaders, especially in the face of what we see is a sort of religious tension between Christians and Muslims on the world stage. What is the proper use of force, lethal force, and violence for a Christian? As a Jewish man, how do you? I mean, well, you're Christian, but in the Jewish culture, how do they view such things?
Well, we're watching it, aren't we?
I would say so.
I think we have a pretty good
that was rhetorical
demonstration of how this is going. The score is 67. It's 67,000 to 3,000. That's how they view it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's.
Well, that's how some Jews view it. But how does the Orthodox view it?
I'm going to play a clip on the next time I do a solo podcast. They just on the street there in New York, there was a Jewish man walking along, and it was somebody stuck a microphone in his mouth and in his face and said, "What do you think about this?" He said, "There's no relationship between Judaism and Zionism. That's a lie. The Zionists have hijacked Judaism. No, I've been saying this and losing friends and getting threatened.
Same way the Republicans have hijacked Christianity.
You know what? That's why there's such a simpatico between these two groups. And I would take it a step further.
Mm-hmm.
The word can be an idol. Do you understand what I mean when I say that? The word itself. If you worship the word
And you don't feel the spirit.
and you don't have the personal relationship
That's right.
with God, it's just another golden idol.
Right.
And, the Torah, man.
For Christians should really believe that because, they're the entire life of Christ is an example of him pushing back on the use of Scripture, the use of the tradition, right?
If you're going to talk
I didn't come
about
to overturn the law, I came to fulfill the law, but I'm still calling out the hypocrisy of all of these religious leaders in the temple, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who are taking the word and using it as a black truth, white lies, black truth. They're using it as a black truth for their own personal gain.
They're using it as a hammer.
That's right.
And the problem I have, in the Protestant tradition, they have this thing, sola scriptura.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reaction against the church, the Roman Catholic Church.
Right.
Everybody just has to understand from the get-go, when the man and woman fell and we started writing things down, that was called wisdom. And that was the tree. The wisdom, you take this apple, well, you're going to be just like God. You're going to be just, that's technology. That's wisdom. That's writing things down. It's such a degradation of the state of humanity. And then we stand on it like it's the high point.
Right.
It's the high point of the low point.
Right.
I think you said it beautifully when you talked about the AI.
Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. Wisdom without spiritual discernment is dangerous.
And who's writing the script for the AI? Us.
Right.
So how is this going to come out good for us?
Right.
And then I saw this Hinson, this guy who has got the Nobel Prize and is targeted as the father of AI. And he said, "Oh, wait a second.
Shit's a problem.
It's
dangerous.
Big. We need to teach the AI to view us as children, and it's the mother." And I thought
maternal instinct.
I said, "Well,
that's dangerous.
Whose side are you playing on?"
300 million abortions.
Oh, exactly. Why don't you just train the AI that it believes in Christ? And that solved that problem.
That's a non-starter.
I get it, but you know what I'm saying.
Non-starter.
I mean, if we're going to
Christian AI is a non-starter. It sounds oxymoronic. You can just feel it. And
no, I'm talking about to protect humanity.
But here's what I'm saying. Yes, I hear you. But what I'm saying is, when you talk about that spiritual discernment, I'm not the most spiritually attuned person in the world. Don't claim to be a holy man. But just on the face of it, when I hear Christian AI, the two things don't compute.
I thought I was the first person that came up with that.
The same way that a lot of Republicans and conservatives say that Islam doesn't
work in America.
Doesn't work with Western society. I feel the same way about AI and Christianity. It's the same thing.
Oh, the only reason I said it is...
See, but this is a telltale sign of the real cause of Western decay. It's not Muslims. It's our own spiritual and moral fortitude.
Well,
See, we think that the arrogance of us to think that we could create something so close to God. Remember I said that borders are a very spiritual thing. And so when you hear people say, I'm for open borders, it sounds altruistic and humanitarian, but it's really pervasive.
No borders.
No borders, no boundaries. That's the whole point of it. There are no boundaries. And when you can convince a man that he has no boundaries or that there are no boundaries, then
anything goes, baby.
And even furthermore, then it's a free-for-all. He'll start to believe that he's God of his own universe, that he is God. That's the most dangerous thing in human existence, is for us to believe that we are God.
I heard that a lot in Asia, by the way. I heard that a lot.
Borders are not just a political, borders are not just political. They're deeply spiritual. Borders place boundaries on a man's unfettered ambition to be God. And that's what makes borders much, much more of a spiritual a spiritual thing than they are a political thing.
And we came to the conclusion, talking over time, that AI abrogates all borders.
Abrogates all borders.
And so that's where we are.
It is the height of a borderless
So
society.
we're back to Herman Kahn.
Yes.
And this whole
And the question you got to ask yourself, Black Panthers or Herman Kahn?
Black Panthers. Every time.
Every time. People got to understand this. And I'm not, because again, there was a difference between the Black Panthers and the modern day left, the Antifas.
That's what I was trying to say.
They're not even, you know,
I'm telling you,
the communism at that time. I mean, these people were just, they didn't even know what communism really was.
Oh, no, that's not true. No. That 60s movement was an attempt to overturn this government. And what this government did was it put everybody on the payroll and everybody sold out. That's what happened.
Right, but again, you still got to.
You
still got to realize that when you talk about how fresh communism was as an academic teaching, you're talking about a first order of people who were just being told another story by somebody else.
First generation,
right? So their interpretation of Karl Marx. Look at ours now. Now you have a technology to a point. Technology and information has reached a level where your modern day professors at the university can't talk about communism without acknowledging Mao and Marx and Stalin. They have to, they still don't want to denounce communism or socialism or Marxism full-throated, but they will try and mix in the horrific results that came from communist regimes in history just for intellectual integrity. They do that. So
but they're going to say that they were not perfected.
I understand that, but they at least have to mention it.
They were saying the same thing in the 60s. I was there. We need a real communist revolution, not these faux revolutions. These people were in the streets. SDS was a communist organization. I can't speak about the Black Panthers because I really don't know. Was it a communist organization? I don't think so.
Oh, they were very, very communist, deeply communist
were they?
roots. Oh, yeah. I mean, Huey P. Newton, who is considered the leader of the Black Panther Party, talked about Marx and Lenin, and he was a Leninist for sure.
But let's go back and say why. Okay.
But again, I don't think that you're talking about, I heavily doubt, because education and information and technology have moved greatly just since I was a kid. You don't have the same access. It's not even remotely close. And as a matter of fact, in the last 10 years, the access to information has made a leapfrog evolution. There's been a leapfrog in information in the last 10 years. In the last 5 years, even worse. And every year, it's getting smaller and smaller before we leapfrog again. So you can't convince me that the people who were teaching Huey P. Newton about Marxism and communism were giving him the full story of what went down in Maoist China. I'm not buying it. They didn't tell him that. They told him the fairy tale, altruistic, humanitarian version of what Karl Marx tried to do, what the theory was in an academic abstract. They didn't talk about the results because the numbers weren't even clear yet.
That's true.
The numbers weren't even clear yet.
It was the 60s. I mean,
there you go.
I mean, right.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm going to also say, what is communism? It's a way to organize people to take down a power structure. So it's a technique, it's a strategy, it's a tactic.
But from the outset, I don't think that communism was ever about the distribution of resources.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
I don't buy it. I think that Karl Marx was an atheist, and he was smart enough to see that economics, it's the economy, stupid. Karl Marx was like you could even make an argument that it's the economy stupid mantra of American politics stems all the way from the Karl Marx, the Marxism.
You could make an argument that Nixon financialized the dollar and took it off the gold standard to buy the whole country off because it failed as an economic strategy, and that led to what we call identity politics.
Would you say that Henry Kissinger was more of the communist or the capitalist variety? Now looking back at it.
That's a very interesting question, and I will tell you the left hated Kissinger. The left, the hard left, where I come from, the people, they hated him.
Because he was a warmonger.
a warmonger, and he was aligned with the machine. These people, so this is where things get
It
complicated.
gets tricky.
Because these people were out in the streets to take apart the exact same military-industrial complex that we're interested in taking apart. We're not communists.
But the propensity towards, again, and you've seen me online many times, warn people, the propensity towards an alliance with the AOC and Bernie Sanders crowd will always be there, because it's not about the critique, it's about the prescription, it's about the solution.
Right.
It's not about the problem, it's about the solution. We agree on the problem. There's a big fucking deep abyss of corruption in D.C., in
Minnesota,
in the corporate world,
everywhere,
in the
church,
in the international
name an
community.
institution,
Deeply corrupt, no doubt about it. And the stratification of wealth and the aggregation of power, all of that stuff is a problem. And us on the right, we agree, but we can never agree that there is no room for God in society. We can never agree that morality should be relative.
But then let's think back into where this communism came from. The church was utterly corrupt and in league with the monarchs of Europe,
Right,
enforcing feudalism. So, it occurs to me going through this, because it's this kind of circular jerk over hundreds of years. It's us. It's just us. It's
you
us.
got a 1:15 stop time? Is that what
No,
it is?
I'm good till 1:30. I'm good till
Okay,
1:30.
good,
So we can
good.
just.
We got
Sorry,
some time.
everybody, but this is my Superman life. I still have the
that's
life
right.
of Clark Kent
That's
down the
right.
hall, but which makes it. I said I would say this, but I'm gonna let it go and just go back to it's us. I have this intense sense that if we don't, as individual people, take responsibility for our own power. You said something beautiful recently, that the government is a great opportunity for people to blame something instead of taking personal responsibility for their own shit.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that. We're going to blame God. I have been in synagogue and watched a man who was dying of cancer on the high holiday blame God and scream at God because he was dying. And we're always looking to off-gas our own angst, our own existential angst, and blame it on our spouse, our kids, our job, our boss, our government, our God, instead of just manning up and dealing with, life's not an easy trip. It's just not. And just quit our complaining and start getting involved in making our own life. Christ said it very beautifully. Get that log out of your own eye first.
Yeah,
That's
but
important.
you do have to find some bearings. The human condition is very the human condition is very very deeply rooted in the psychological and in the intellectual, and there's a real crossroads or intersection between the psychological and the intellectual and the spiritual. In fact, you could make an argument that the spiritual is much more of the psychological and intellectual than it is the physical. But maybe you can make an argument that they're all equal. Part of being human is we are an upright species, right? We do have to get our bearings in some sense. We do have to have some anchors. There has to be something by which we can stand on. There has to be some foundation.
Well, let me ask you a question.
It's hard to stand. You just can't take the morals out of society. I could agree with the left on a bunch of things. I could agree with the far left on a bunch of things about a number of different issues. And I certainly agree that when people have political disagreement, that they shouldn't be afraid to speak their mind and take to the streets. But when you get to the place that you're talking about political assassinations and violence, and then you celebrate and rejoice. I saw a video the other day of a woman who claimed that she was in a romantic relationship, a marriage.
Oh, I saw you posted that.
A marriage with Maggioni, who was the accused
avatar.
killer of the United Healthcare CEO, the United Healthcare Group CEO, and she was in a relationship with him, a full-blown romance. Now that's just a little psychotic. That's a little just kind of on the severe mental illness end. But that's what happens. I don't think people fully grasp how neurosis leads to psychosis, and psychosis leads to demonic possession. I think people don't realize that when you don't have any spiritual anchors, when you don't have any, even philosophical anchors of right and wrong, of morality, this is what starts to fragment the mind and seeds the territory for demonic influence and evil. And I think a lot of sad as it is, but true, I believe, a lot of these people are influenced by demonic forces, and they probably don't even realize it. Now that's a theological pickle we got to deal with. Like, how do you? There are probably
art, music,
and they
movies.
still deserve punishment for their actions. You know, I hate the Montel Jordan. It was Montel Jordan. No, not Montel Jordan. Montel Williams. Not Montel Jordan, the singer. Montel Williams. Sorry for getting the names mixed up. But Montel Williams saying this guy was hurt. You know. And he's talking to Scott Jennings, and, you know, Scott Jennings is a Bush Republican. He was by default that Scott Jennings would have to fully renounce the Bush junta version of Republican politics before I ever trusted him. He could say all the right things all he wants to. I don't trust the Bush guys because in this nation's darkest hour, they sided with the communists. And there's a reason why they have Scott Jennings on CNN. There's a reason why they have Scott Jennings on CNN every single day, and they would never invite me on to talk to any of those people about any issue. There's a reason for that. And that's the next danger over the horizon is what does the Republican Party and the MAGA movement become in the shadow of this evil?
That is a danger, isn't it?
But Montel Williams, I said it again. It's because I like Montel Jordan. But anyway, Montel Williams saying that this guy was, you know, just in love. Fuck you. Fuck you, you pussy sap, simping ass, sellout motherfucker.
I saw that from other people.
He needs to be slapped. See, and then they go, well, that's violent. It's not the same. You know, slapping the shit out of somebody's not the same as putting a bullet through their head. That's very different. The black community needs a dose of that. It's different to go up to a guy and say, you know what, I got a fucking problem. Put your shit down right now. We're about to fight. We're fighting. And going up to a guy and you know, shooting him from 200 yards, that's cowardice. Even walking, I don't even like, you know, I'm as pro Second Amendment as it gets, but at the same time, I recognize how guns have you know, they're like a cheat code for masculinity, right? They're like an equalizer of the.
Strange how this all happened after 1973, isn't it? Because when I was in the 60s, there was a lot of fighting. Nobody ever had a gun. There was never any shootings amongst the young people. I remember the first time I saw a pipe come out, I said, wow, that's intense. People go out every day. It was called the quad. Every day, all the men.
Fight club.
Every day. I mean, you couldn't go home. If you tried to get by that quad, you're going to get chased down. You're going to be put in the center of the quad. So everybody took a turn, you know. If you were badass, you didn't have to do it all the time. Everybody else, it was all the time. No guns, no clubs, no weapons. People went home bleeding, came back the next day. Friends.
Yeah.
Something changed. About 73. I wonder what that was. About 73. Kicked a fundamental out of our culture that God is the master of life and death. You know, like my father. My father died ugly. Took him a long time to die. He had no problem with it because it wasn't his. I mean, resuscitate me because do everything you can to keep me alive because God is the one that's going to take me down. That was his orientation.
Yeah.
It sounds almost like an oxymoron, but he would extend life as long as possible, fight, use that will to live, and when God says it's time to go, you're done. So now all of a sudden everybody feels that. We were just sitting in my office, you were talking about suicides among white males.
Yeah.
Being such a high,
profound statistic. The suicide rate, the annual amount of suicides in white men alone is almost triple the amount of homicides total. That's a stat you rarely hear people even bring up. And
isn't that a barometer of mental health?
Oh, well, maybe. Maybe not. We don't know if it's the mental health or if it's the spiritual. Because in my opinion, suicide is a very internal, tormented, supernaturally tormented condition.
Well,
suicidal ideation.
You're taking away from God and taking
Well,
it into your
the
own
reason I
hands.
say it is because it stems completely from the intellect, right? I mean, it starts from within. Homicide can be, reactive. Yeah, suicide is completely of the self.
It's contemplation.
It's the self. Yeah, it's a contemplative. Right. You can kill somebody in an act of
You can kill them by
like
accident.
rage. That's not what this assassin did, right? And there's a distinction to be made there. There's a difference between I came home, my wife is in bed with another man, and out of rage. Actually, in the Christian scripture, there is a concession made in penalty in the eyes of God if you have a
crime of passion.
Right?
It's still, in Mexico, interestingly, if you go turn yourself in, no problem. If you can prove that there was a crime of passion and you don't run away, turn yourself in, no charges. To this day.
Wow. Yeah, Mexico's fucked up, but Mexico's fucked up, but you still need to go to jail. But in the spiritual sense, it's different. It's different to come home, your
Hey,
wife.
I'm sorry if there's some Mexicans listening. I got it wrong.
I'm Mexican.
I just happened to know a guy down there, and his wife fell off the third floor of the building.
Wow.
Died. He's good.
Yeah.
Lived in Spain for a year, came back, all good. I'm not saying it's right.
Right.
And I don't even know if that's still true, but I know it was true.
There's a difference, though. There's a difference between a premeditated plan, which I saw this guy, Destiny, I don't know, a little, twerpy white kid does a lot of these internet debates and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And Alex posted a video of him calling for political violence, even admitting that he was close to organizing a group of people and going down to a man's house and murdering him and his family. That is not the same kind. So see what they do is, and this is a very slick thing they do. And I feel so bad. I mean, one of my life's greatest thing I'm most proud of is being called a conspiracy theorist in this era. One of the things I'm most regretful about is being a part of the co-opt of mental health as a global social issue for evil purposes. Because I was one of those people out there saying, hey, mental health is a spectrum. And before you know it, mental health and mental illness became synonymous, and then mental illness became a spectrum. And all of a sudden, you got common anxiety, depression, PTSD, everyday mental health struggles, non-severe.
What a great opportunity to sell drugs.
Mental illness, clinical, diagnosable, need medical intervention, need pharmaceuticals. And then you have severe mental illness, the people who are impaired and struggle with everyday function. And then you have the demonic and evil. And all of them have been blended together. And even that is an attempt to justify the evil end of the spectrum for the common end of the spectrum. It's like, yeah, no, this guy who was in love with this transgender, just has the same sort of struggles that your average 18-year-old girl does who has body dysmorphia and thinks that she's fat, but she's really not. That's not the fucking same. That's the type of Hegelian dialectics that we're faced with. And the reason why it's so effective is because people hate the nuance. This is why I say convenience will be the death of freedom. It's not that we don't want things to be as convenient as possible. It's in the face of convenience, we lose any appetite for the nuance. This is why me and Jason got into, you're talking about military. Give me the politics with French fries. Give me the one-liner. Give me the soundbite that the audience can eat on for the next 30 days while their government keeps stripping their fucking rights.
Which goes right back to Herman Kahn.
That's right.
We're going to end with that.
Yes.
This is why we need a new rally point. So when you say you agree with a lot of the diagnosis of the left, as I do too, because it's obvious, right? It's just the solution that's different. How many leftists are looking at their fellow leftists acting like this and going over the hill? That's going on also,
we'll
too,
see.
isn't it? Well,
we'll see. I'm seeing it.
I'm seeing it online.
I'm seeing them.
Saying, well, I can't.
I saw a woman yesterday.
I can't caucus with these people.
She said, I've been a Democrat my whole life.
I saw that same thing.
I've seen it like 10 times. I've been a Democrat my whole life, but this shit's out of control. You people are disgusting. And the scary part is I don't even think those are the ones that believe in God, because there are some Christian Democrats over there that already believe in God. They just have allowed race and
What do
misogyny
they
and
call that? They
homophobia.
call that there's a word for that, like ancestral Democrat or familial Democrat.
Yeah.
Democrat.
Yeah.
You know, most people follow along in the. I mean, you're the anomaly. You broke off from your community.
Yeah, I'm fucked up.
Paid the price for that.
I'm
didn't
fucked
you,
up in the best way.
Me too.
I'm the type of guy, if too many people agree on something, they say the safeguard against psychopaths and sociopaths are highly disagreeable, aggressive men with sacred honor, with a purpose, with a cause, with morals, with ethics.
We better find a lot of them right now.
Well, you damn sure better. You damn sure better.
We need a big group.
Highly disagreeable and aggressive. That is the safeguard. That's what keeps these people at bay. And so I'm just kind of fucked up in that if I see too many people agreeing with something, I already start, what's going on here? I don't know. Why are you all agreeing on this thing? You guys just, it's too convenient. It's too convenient. You got 100 people, you guys all unanimously agree. Let me ask okay, let's think about this. And that's what our constitutional republic is based on, that the Pareto distribution of the right thinker is usually in the minority, is usually the one in the crowd of many, the one who actually gets it right. Think about the scientific
The
community.
guy that stands up.
Then you get you got Tesla, you got Newton, you got Einstein. Even by science standards, this is what makes the modern day Democrat Party in the scientific
Kind of a joke.
mainstream a crackpot.
Right.
The entire history of science is that the very
Question,
few
and
rarely get it right. Only in the few is it right.
And that's when the academic world was at its best,
Right.
where everybody was working on everything. It was always read. They were, we used to have as our medicine putting leeches on. But I was thinking about this, man.
That's why I love talking to boomers. They used to put leeches on people.
Well, they're going to come out. I mean, there's going to be a whole. I mean, things are always changing.
Yeah.
I was going to say to you, do you believe? Are we going to believe? Do we see? Because what are we told? The judgment. Mankind our human nature never changes. What a bullshit story that is. That's just like the devil doesn't exist. We emerged out of the muck and muck. We were living in caves, man. Caves. And now here we're living the way we are. Of course, human nature.
If you believe that.
Well, if you believe that, yes. But has there been some evolution of the human spirit over the time? We know that because Christ came.
Right.
We know that is a great evolution of the human spirit.
Amen.
And now there's the tide comes in, the tide goes back, waxing. Well, okay, now we're talking about being a moment of spiritual revival. Well, could there be something on the other side of this?
Yeah, we know what it is. It's promised.
Well, that's what
1,000 years of Christendom. That's what's promised. That's what the scripture reads before Revelation.
Okay.
1,000-year Christendom.
That means there's a new unity, a new understanding.
Yeah, I mean, and you see it. It's happening right now. I mean, how did the Democrats ever come back from this? Honestly, if I'm the Democrat donors right now, I'm thinking about two things. One, I'm going to pull off the most massive and blatant cheat in the history of our nation, in the short history of our nation. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat so bad, I don't give a shit if it ruins the rest of the credibility, the remaining credibility of the institutions.
But
Royce,
I'm
going to take a new Democrat. I'm going to create a whole new party.
What difference does it make? Each side's actions are leading to the same place.
No.
In the sense of
technology,
martial law.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean,
but even in martial law, you got to realize and understand, even in the event of a tyrannical government, the human spirit yearns for freedom and it yearns for the truth. That's why no tyrannical rule has ever been long lasting.
There's never been such a great Herman-Kahn technology.
Yeah.
Well,
so we think.
Well,
let's be.
We're going to find out, aren't we?
Well, hang on. Let's not be so sure that there haven't been societies that are as technologically advanced as ours in the history of our species.
Oh, there we go. That conspiracy theory there. Put
All
it
right.
up. Here's another one. They're going to clip it and put
cool.
it up.
That's fine. We just don't know. And that's just by scientific.
There's a lot of things we don't know. We don't know.
But we do know this. The left is much more, although they cosplay as revolutionaries, they are much more susceptible to take the orders of the prevailing institutions than the right. And so, as much as we said earlier, that at the height of the right, you don't see anarchy. At the height of the left, you do. The good thing
You flip
about
it around the other side.
the good thing about today is at the height of the left, the anarchy is mostly theatrical. They have been given
so far.
yes,
so far.
Yeah, they
Other than the fact that people are getting assassinated, which is not theatrical.
Scary part is that's theatrical.
Well, of course, because it's turned into theatrics, but the
Yes.
actual act is violent as
for
hell.
sure. Yeah. So the violence starts to merge into theater. But what I'm saying is that the left
They call that
has been given uh, 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 an institutional and systematic clemency to play out this theater.
I think they call it.
They didn't do it of their own
They
volition.
call it atrocity theater. I mean, that the theater
Yes.
of the atrocity
That's right.
is so critical to create the consensus,
Yes.
which brings about the outcome. Which
Come
really,
on, dude. You're talking about, dude. I mean, come on. Now, these people who are shooters, and they're in the very minority. And I don't mean that the left doesn't have an appetite for violence, but people who are actually going to do it, they're a small number.
It's like suicide bombers.
To anybody, violence is a small number by statistical standards. Your average, radical left feminist from the university who on her way to class uses mommy's credit card to get a
latte.
venti latte.
At Starbucks.
Okay? And she wants this shit to go post-apocalyptic. On day one, she dies. On day one of a post-apocalyptic anarchy society, she dies.
Could be property too.
She doesn't make it. And the fact that she doesn't see, now you could say, and this is the flip side of this coin, you could say that there's such a self-loathing and self-destructive nature in the psychological and spiritual on the left because they don't have any anchors, no spiritual anchors.
There you go.
You could say that they actually want to accelerate a post-apocalyptic society because they don't have the balls to kill themselves. So they want to create the circumstance for mass violence so they can encounter death. Their entire...
Man, you're going to blow some boomers' minds with that.
Yeah, well, that's sadomasochism, though, right? This is a crazy thing. The human mind is fucking complex.
Fucked up.
I'm so self-absorbed, right? I'm so playing out the star character in my own sitcom, in my own reality TV show, that my opinion is the most important and supersedes all else in the universe. So I'm very impressed with myself. I'm in love with myself and my own opinion, but I also hate myself so much, but I don't hate myself enough to have the stomach and courage to kill myself. I would definitely like to see violence and chaos get so bad that maybe I just stumble into my demise because that would be convenient.
Boy, that's a great way to come up to the end of a podcast. You got a positive note. I mean, that's just so
Positive
awful.
note is America is back.
Baby.
We designated Antifa a terrorist organization. And you know what? Some of your other radical left groups are next. And the most telling thing of this whole deal is Jimmy Kimmel gets fired and the left cries. Oh, the left says state censorship, state-run media. Oh, this is an impediment of free speech, and you guys aren't really for free speech.
I don't
Jimmy
think
Kimmel.
the business model's not working, Jimmy.
Oh,
you ain't
Jimmy.
making us any money, Jimmy. This is our excuse to sit you down, brother. You've gone too far. We're done losing money on
Jimmy,
you.
we wanted to get rid of your ass 5 years ago because you're another self-pretentious Finocchio.
Oh, they don't give a shit. There's no money in it.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no money
but
in it.
We've been wanting to get rid of you because you're an asshole.
Got an excuse.
Now we got one.
Sit down.
Dummy, you fell into the steel trap, all right? The steel trap of corporatocracy.
You know what I say? Can I tell you what I say? Let's bring back Johnny Carson. Late night television.
Ayatollah, he's watching those Johnny Carson
Did you ever
reruns.
watch Johnny Carson reruns?
Of course.
Wasn't that a wonderful time when our late night television was not political? It was actually relaxing. You watched Johnny Carson for a laugh.
I told you
Change your
the
day.
Ayatollah's watching Johnny Carson reruns eating Ben and Jerry's.
So am I.
Rabbi X.
We got to go, man.
It's been another episode of HEBROES. We appreciate your viewership and listenership today.
We sure
and
do.
in the
Thank
future.
you so much.
That was fun, man. I appreciate you being in. We had
There
a
was
deep-
no warning
deep
on
dive.
this when he called me at 11. Said you want to do a Hebrews
We
at
got to do it,
11:20.
man. We got to do it. The propensity is to shy away from the spotlight and to try and gather your thoughts in moments like this. But I'm confident, like, a lot of this is, what are the right questions that we should be asking right now?
How do we get involved in politics? How do we personally get involved in the Republican Party? What can I do to change my country? How do I take responsibility for this mess? What can I personally do? I'm 66 years old. Have I not almost dropped everything for the movement, in your opinion?
Yeah, you I know you think that's it. I know. But this is probably just as important, because, they take a plant and you speak positive words to the plant and the plant blossoms. And then those people who insult the plant dies. You ever seen that scientific experiment?
Yes, I have. Same thing with crystals and water.
Wow, that is serious science there.
Well, now we're talking about the personal.
But my point is, when I look at the 2024 election and I ask ChatGPT to give me a rough estimate of how many conservatives and Christians did not cast a ballot, and they say 1.5 million.
Nationally?
In Minnesota.
Oh, give me a break.
In Minnesota, they estimate that 1.4 million Christians and conservatives with some crossover. So maybe let's say 1 million total. Let's say every conservative is a Christian as well as a crossover. So close to 1 million conservatives and Christians in Minnesota didn't cast a ballot, of voter age, didn't cast a ballot in 2024. When I read that,
isn't this the government that they're Christians? Isn't this the government that just made abortion legal to 9 months? I mean, who are these people?
But you were there though when I said you were there in 2022 at the CD5 convention when I stood up and asked, "Are we the party of God?"
Well, they started screaming at you.
Half of the room started screaming at me. Half of the room that was there remember me doing that,
and they're still supporting
me to this day.
Right.
But what does it say of all the Christians who weren't in the room? And some of them are starting to come to the room. Some of them are starting to get involved. Some of them have said enough is enough per Charlie Kirk's leadership. But some of them still believe in accelerating the end of time. And hey, be careful what you wish for, because
what does Steve Bannon say? The most painful prayers are the ones that get answered.
Amen.
Something like that.
Amen. I appreciate you being here, Professor Penn. That was
cool.
fun.
Yep, we had a good time.
Tomorrow morning, Real America's Voice, 9 a.m. Eastern. That's 8 a.m. Central for all you Midwestern folks. We'll see you there, and we are again preparing for the sad and painful send off of Charlie Kirk on Sunday morning, but also a celebration of his life. And I think the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump himself, is set to be there, which we would expect. Per some changing thing that happens. A president is a president. I know they're tracking a lot of security threats because this place is now the number one target for more terrorist type attacks or aspirations. But again, every day you go outside, we were promised in Scripture, for His name's sake, you'll be persecuted, and so it's just beginning. I think
I agree with you.
But again, for every Christian leader like Charlie Kirk that gets killed inspires a rush to the pews, a rush to the churches, a rush to the faith, a rush to the Scripture, to the Bible, then we should all be so lucky. We should all be so lucky as Charlie Kirk to die in a way that brings people to God.
In Matthew 10:34, whoever finds their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will find it in eternity.
Yeah,
crazy.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen, brother.
Thank you very much.
Godspeed to you all. God bless America. Thoughts and prayers with the Kirk family. We'll see you all tomorrow morning. We'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Everything's up on the bar. We're all in. We get to decide. Do you want to live on your knees, or do you want to die on your feet fighting? That's the decision you get to make now.